Well, welcome to my first Sunday service. This will be fun. Okay. So, first of all, we're going to be doing Overcoming Grudges. This is part one of a series which I've developed called Rebuilding Your Life. It comes in 8 parts, 9 parts, something like that. I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know. First of all, everyone has problems in their life. Comes without saying, life is full of problems. So they make us suffer, they cause us lots of angst in our life. And it's part of our spiritual training. All our problems are there for us to learn from. So as difficult and as troublesome as they may seem at the time, when you look back you will say, if that hadn't have happened, I wouldn't be where I am now. So this is why we have problems in our life. But if we're not careful, these problems can become sources of blame. We can blame other people. And this blame leads to anger, to hatred, and then even to illness, because it's just festering away inside of us. And this is what a grudge is. It's where we cannot let go of something that happened in the past. So, these issues remain in our minds. So, remember that if we hold a grudge, we feel the same feelings we had at that time well up from within us again. So we've faced a problem, we're in a similar situation, straight away we feel, ooh, I remember this from last time. This really didn't work. This is the same thing's going to happen again. Already we're starting to doubt that we can get past this. It's sitting there in our minds, in our hearts, and we just cannot get past the fact that we failed last time. We're going to fail again. Same thing's going to happen again. It makes us depressed, unhappy, even angry at times. But I would like to say that without this failure, I could have been more successful. Without this person, I could have been much happier now. If my family was not poor, I could have been more successful now. Sound familiar? Lots of people have these thoughts going through their heads. And it's not just these ones. It could be if my parents weren't arguing all the time, if I didn't have the boss that I had now, if I didn't marry this person. All these thoughts go through your head and they're all focused on other people. They're all placing blame on external forces. So it's not until you actually look closely do you actually see, hey, I'm me. This is my life. Why should I let these people dictate it? Because remember that this negative thinking can greatly affect your life. It discourages you from achieving stuff, something desirable. It stops you from achieving happiness. But always remember the past. Disbelief is being able to succeed. So as funny as that sounds, you cannot always succeed in life. You do suffer. But now, if you think carefully, you can overcome grudges. You can succeed, overcome your past failures. So over time, grudges can form illness, such as cancer, as an extreme example. A grudge can build up inside, it festers, you constantly think about it, and it eventually causes illness, and this illness can even develop deeply into cancer. So even if the setback that you experience is outside of your control, like natural disaster, disabilities, all this sort of stuff, these things are things you cannot control. They're out of your control. So if you sit there and you blame the environment, you blame your parents, you blame other people, then you can never get past that particular point in your life. You're constantly living in the past. So you may think there's nothing you can do but blame others for the reason why you are so unhappy and unsuccessful right now. It's a pretty negative state of mind, really, isn't it, when you think about it? But this is not true, because happy science teaches us how to deal with this problem. Because no matter what the circumstances, we can still step towards happiness. It is as though we construct or we find architecture named life again after it has been demolished in the past. This is what rebuilding your life is. It's saying, I've reached something in my life which really knocked me down. It destroyed my belief in myself, it destroyed my life. But hey, we can get past this. We can go on. We can become stronger because of this. So this is what rebuilding your life means. And rather than me sitting here and standing here and explaining it to you, let's let Master Okawa, in his lecture, Rebuilding Your Life.
Let me first summarize what I will talk about today. In your life, you may experience misfortunes, failures, or setbacks. But no matter what the circumstances, you can still step toward happiness. Why not explore this idea? This is what rebuilding your life means. There is a Buddhist saying, a resentful heart can never melt as long as you nurse a grudge. This simple phrase defies many people's understanding. Faced with pain or grief, illness or setbacks, people tend to blame something or someone other than themselves. Actually, these negative feelings are expressed not only as an attitude of avoiding what should be confronted, but also at times as an enmity toward others. In Hiroshima, more than 100,000 people were killed instantly in the devastating attack when the atomic bomb was dropped. And many of those who survived still suffer from serious illnesses. The families of the dead and injured probably still do not accept what happened. To put it simply, some of them are probably still nursing grudges. When something inexplicable or something beyond your control completely changes your life, you may unknowingly hold unforgiving feelings and resent the nation and the people who caused such damage. This sort of response can be seen as a natural emotion. However, I would like to point out that this sort of emotion will never bring happiness or success. Do you understand why? When you bluntly express anguish, you may feel relieved of letting out something that has been building up inside. It may give you a certain sense of satisfaction. But in actual fact, living with such feelings day after day is like constantly feeding your soul doses of poison such as arsenic. You may think that your feelings are justified from the perspective of justice. However, there is a spiritual principle that nobody can escape.
そこから逃れることはできないのです。人を
You will never attain happiness by resenting others,
になれないということになっているのです。それは
because that kind of feeling actually boils down to an intention to harm
相手を
others.
したいという気持ちがあるからなのです。他の者
Whatever the reasons for your attitude,
理由に基づくにせよ
any intention to harm others is against the will of
神
Buddha.
の心に反した思いであるのです。その思い
Not only will harmful thoughts reach others,
必ず
they will eventually come back to you.
出てくるようになっております。それが
This is the law.
であるのです。この宇宙には
In the universe,
一本の
there is a firmly established set of values,
価値基準があります。そこに
which is like a pillar.
柱があります。この
Eternal progress
大
and
きな柱
development
の中で考
are promised to those who think and act within this golden pillar,
進歩、進化というものが許されておりますが、
while thoughts and action outside this golden pillar will never bring about the progress of the soul.
行動は決してその人の魂の進化に役立つようにはなっていないのです。ちょうど宇宙船
Outside the pillar,
飛び出して
people cannot freely move in any direction they want,
絆が切れて
because it is as if they are floating from a spaceship without a lifeline.
方に進めなくなってくるのです。変えることのできない
Although you may nurse a grudge about some event in the past,
こだわって
it is impossible to change the
変え
past.
させようとすることは非常に難しいことであるのです。やはり
What is important about the past is the way you regard it,
評価を
and how you learn lessons
それを
from it
どの
that
よう
you
に
can use in the future.
という教訓の面で過去は役立ちますけれども、こうした心の
However,
の中の
Hatred and grudges are outside time.
これは
They always stay in the present.
現在しかない
Such feelings never fade and become a part of your past, but continue to be experienced in the present.
どうしても
And because they are negative thoughts,
向いて
they will hold you back in your progress toward happiness. This is a very important
な
truth,
かなかわからない
which people seem to have great difficulty understanding.
So, as Master said, no matter what the circumstances, you can still step towards happiness. So it doesn't matter what happens to you in life, there is always a way we can step forward. It sounds really difficult, and if you've suffered a major setback, like death of a loved one or something, it can be very, very difficult. But we have to try to step forward. Because remember that we are never given anything that we can't handle. So God, Buddha, He's given us tasks in our life, problems that we need to overcome in order for us to succeed. And He will never say, okay, you're this big, there's a mountain here, no, this is your problem. You're here, the mountain's here. They'll always be the same height. But we need to remember that obstacles are actually blessings in disguise. They're always there to help us. Because I can't remember who said it, but somebody said that the only way you can succeed is to fail. It's an interesting thought, but failing to see this, no pun intended, it leads to dwelling on problems, dwelling on the past. And if we dwell on the past, then we start blaming others, as we said before, and then this leads to a resentful heart. Master Kara said, a resentful heart can never melt as long as you nurse a grudge. It's a very profound statement, but as long as you're holding something in your heart, something negative, then you're essentially encasing your heart in ice, saying, I'm never going to let go of this because you hurt me. I'm never going to let go of this because it failed, and I will fail again, and I will fail again. As soon as we break through that ice, we can actually say, well, I failed here, but I failed because of this reason. So let's try again, but not do that. So it's all about changing our perspective, changing our way of viewing our problems. So there are 3 practices for removing or rebuilding your life, removing a grudge. First is to identify a grudge. Second is forgiveness. Stop blaming others. And third is revolutionizing your perspective. All fairly tricky little things, but let's go through these one at a time. So, identify a grudge. So in the lecture, Master said, faced with pain, grief, illness or setbacks, people tend to blame something or someone other than themselves. These negative feelings are expressed not only as an attitude of avoiding what should be confronted, but also at times as an enmity towards others. This blaming, as we said, leads to anger, frustration, hatred, negativity, all these wonderful things which most people harbour in their hearts. But these feelings will always come back to you. Whenever you, as I said, whenever you're in the same situation or faced with the same problem, straight away you'll feel these feelings, emotions welling up inside. And this is really what a grudge is. If you can identify these feelings, say, ooh, I shouldn't be feeling that in this situation, you know that you're still harbouring a problem from the past. So, living with such feelings day after day is like constantly feeding your soul doses of poison, such as arsenic. Now, the first time I heard this, I puzzled for a long time, why did Master choose arsenic? Why didn't he choose cyanide or some other poison which everybody knows about? But when I was thinking about it, I remembered something from my past, because I grew up in a very small country town in Victoria, which was a mining town, and they used 2 chemicals to remove gold from ore, arsenic and cyanide, mainly arsenic because it's cheaper. And on a bright sunny summer's day, hasn't rained for months, our creek starts to flow down the back of the house, and they're pumping the water out of their mine where they've been using arsenic. And my parents said, stay away from this because it's really poisonous. It doesn't kill you straight away, but it actually builds up in your system. Arsenic is one thing you can never get out of your system. It gets stored in the fat of your system, in your body. And as you build up, it builds up in small doses, into a medium dose, into a strong dose, and eventually into a toxic dose. A grudge is exactly like this. It starts out as just a feeling of resentment, of hurt, and then it builds up into anger, and then into frustration, and then blame, and then hatred. It's very destructive because the stronger it develops, the longer it's there, the more damage it's actually doing to your soul and to your body. So this is why we actually need to get rid of it, because they build up all that you don't, even if you're not aware it's there, it's slowly forming this cancerous growth inside your body. So a grudge attracts negativity and actualizes destructive things. So the mind is like a magnet. If we're thinking negative thoughts, then we're attracting negative things, negative emotions, negative people. This is the law of same wavelength attraction. The more we think about a particular type of thing, the more we attract it. So if we're thinking negative thoughts, we attract negative people. If we're thinking positive thoughts, we attract positive people. A grudge is negative, so it will always attract negative people. It will always attract negative things into our life. But a grudge prevents us from making efforts to realise more happiness and success in life. Because as long as it's there, we are always hitting a wall. It's like, I reached this point, I didn't pass it. Or I've reached it again, I'm still not going to get past it, it's too big, it's too scary. So grudges make us stuck in a rut, basically. We are stuck in misfortune. We can never progress spiritually or physically as long as we're harbouring a grudge against something that happened in the past. So, in this very long quote here, Master said in his lecture, "You may think that your feelings are justified from the perspective of justice. However, there is a spiritual principle which nobody can escape. You will never attain happiness by resenting others, because that kind of feeling actually boils down to an intention to harm others." Now, as Master said in his lecture, an intention to harm others is going against Buddha's will, because it's one of our precepts that do not kill or injure others. It's one of the things that we live by. And if we are harbouring a grudge, which is an intention to harm others, we are breaking one of Buddha's rules, one of God's rules. Because it is not possible to actually justify a grudge. There's no real reason for it. It's just a way of avoiding blame for yourself. But subconsciously we do. We justify it. It justifies our current situation, because, as we said, we can't get past it. But this is why we need to rebuild our life. We need to recognise these things, and we need to overcome them. Otherwise, we're stuck. We will end up being a teenager for the rest of our life. But it is possible to construct a happy and successful life again. First, we need to identify the grudge within us, because I'm pretty sure everybody in the world has grudges inside them. They might be small, they might be massive, I don't know. But something happened when you were a child. You know, Joe Smith stole your crayons in primary school. It doesn't really matter. You still harbour a resentment from it. You might meet him 30 years down the track, and all of a sudden this anger wells up. "Hey, you stole my crayons." These things are dangerous. But mostly we forget about our grudges. They're there until they get triggered, like our Joe Smith situation. But it's always best to identify them early and deal with them, just like cancer cells, because they're very similar. One can lead to the other. So, always remember, you will never attain happiness by resenting others, because that kind of feeling actually boils down to an intention to harm others. I put this in again because I think it's very important that we understand that grudges are here to cause us problems. But they're not here to cause us problems, they do cause us problems. So it's this feeling of intention to harm others. We don't realise it at the time, but this guy, he made my company go bankrupt. I wish he was dead. These sort of feelings happen a lot. Even though we don't actually mean it, the intention is there. Our thought was there. And as the spirit world is a world of thoughts, if we are thinking these sort of thoughts, it's not good reflection on where our mind is at that particular point in time. So, step 2 is forgiveness. Stop blaming others. So step 1, identify the grudge. Step 2, practice forgiveness. Stop blaming others. Forgiveness is not only for attaining religious virtue in your character, but also for attaining happiness and success by combating grudges. So forgiveness is a wonderful thing. You should practice forgiveness every day. I don't care who you forgive, just try forgiving somebody. It just feels so good. But learning how to forgive, it's essential for attaining happiness and success. Because if we can't forgive people, then why should we even try for success? People will just upset us and we will just resent them. If we can forgive them, we can learn from our situation and we can move on. But an unforgiving mind traps us in an unfortunate life. Because if we can't forgive, if we have an unforgiving mind, then we have nowhere else to go. And this is really hard because, as I said, forgiveness is very difficult. But we need to practice forgiveness. We need to accept our problems and accept it as part of your workbook of life. And if you're dealing with situations in your life where it's something horrendous has happened, like somebody has hit and run a relative or a family member, it's very easy to harbour blame towards them, but it's really, really difficult to forgive them. If somebody's caused your business to fail, if a relationship's broken up because of somebody else, all these things are very difficult for us to get over and to forgive. But forgiveness is, well, it's the work of angels. If we can forgive somebody for something that they've done, something horrendous, then it shows that we have a remarkable spirit. But as we said, it's all part of our workbook of life. So when we come to this world, we have a series of set problems that we encounter during our life. And each one of these problems is designed for us to progress, for us to actually learn from. And as we approach these problems, if we can say, oh, this is a problem in my workbook, I have to deal with this, resolve it, then we can move on. If we hit it and say, oh, I can't get past this, this is too difficult, then we can't complete our workbook, we can't succeed in this life. So remember that everything that happens to us makes us who we are today. I use this a lot, I think about this a lot, because I've had problems in my past, we all have. But even though I didn't like them at the time, now I look back and say, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be here right now. And I actually like being here right now. So everything that happened actually made me a better person, even though at the time it was pretty dismal. So remember that our world we live in here is like a school. This school faces us with problems. It's like an essay or an exam in school. But depending on your spiritual level will depend on the problems you face. So if you're in primary school, you'll face a small problem. If you're in university, you'll face an enormous problem. But we will never face a problem that we can't handle. Everything will be given to us at a level where we are at. So this is something that we have to try to remember. So why blame others for your problems? They are there to help you to progress, and we need to forgive those involved and move on. Difficult, but not impossible, because we can help you to get past these problems. We can help nurture you, and there's people around that you can talk to about issues in your life, and we will help you to get through them. It's part of what we are here. It's part of what friends are for. They're there to help you to get through these things. So, step 3, revolutionizing your perspective. So we've identified the grudge, we've practiced forgiveness, we still can't get past this problem. It's too difficult. So we need to revolutionize our perspective, look at things from a different angle. So 2 practical ways to change your negative perspective towards our current condition into the positive one. This comes out of the book Invincible Thinking. First is find a third alternative. So we can't hold on to it, we can't forgive them, so it's got to be another way. See if we can find something else. The second one is think in the opposite way to create positivity. So just because we've faced a problem doesn't mean we have to think of that problem head on. Look at it from the side. Look at it from upside down, back to front. Mirror image, it doesn't matter. But look at it in a different way. So, first of all, we're going to look at number 1. Find a third alternative. Jessica Cox, doesn't say much. But imagine if you were born with no arms. How would you face life? How would you actually be able to do what you do now if you had no arms? Well, Jessica Cox is such a person. She was born with no arms. She does so much stuff that I haven't done half of what she's done. And I couldn't do 99.9% of what she does do. This woman can put contact lenses in with her feet. She puts on makeup. She drives a car. All of these things with no arms. I mean, most of us would see this as a setback, but not Jessica. But rather than me tell you her story, let's hopefully let her tell her story.
Hi, my name is Jessica Cox. I was born without arms. Today I learned to fly a plane. I was a little nervous at first, but then I remembered my favorite words of wisdom. Never let your fears get in the way of your opportunities. When I was growing up, my mom used to worry that I wouldn't be able to do all the things I needed to do. But I just learned to do things with my feet that other kids did with their hands. I learned to drink from a glass, color with crayons, unwrap birthday presents just like everybody else. I still felt shy about being different though. I remember the first time I was on stage. It was my very first dance recital, and I was so scared that I told my dance teacher I wanted to be put in the back row. She told me there was no back row. Afterwards, all I heard was cheering and clapping. I couldn't wait to go out the second time and perform. I danced for 12 years after that. My parents wanted me to learn self-defense along with confidence. I started taking Taekwondo when I was 10. I got my black belt 4 years later. In college, I tested for my second one. I was the first person without arms to get a black belt in the American Taekwondo Association. Our culture often refers to people like me as disabled. I think that's misleading because I live a completely normal life. I drive without special adaptations. I write. I type 20 words per minute. I put contact lenses in my eyes. Probably the only true adversity I face is acceptance from other people. I went to get my driver's license. I passed with flying colors. A week later, I got a letter in the mail saying my license was suspended. Somebody decided it wasn't safe for me to be driving without special adaptations on my car. I had to go back and take 2 additional tests. I still don't drive with adaptations. Being different physically from other people has taught me an important lesson. Many normal people suffer from a true disability, a lack of faith in themselves. I hope my life story encourages other people to fulfill their true potential, to overcome the handicap of fears and limitations they place on themselves, or that other people encourage in them. I want them to think, hey, if she can do that much without arms, then I can do so much more with my life. Today, I became the first woman without arms to fly an airplane. What will you accomplish tomorrow?
So, I love that testimony. That is so inspiring. But Jessica found a third alternative. So instead of thinking, well, I can complain all my life, I can rely on other people all my life, I have no arms, so no, everybody should look after me. She embraced her disability and succeeded where many others would have just given up in despair. Just lay there with a torso with legs. But she got out there and she became such an inspirational person doing everything she could by herself. I mean, how many people here have the guts to get up and fly an aeroplane with no arms? Just use your feet. Try it sometime. I'll come to your funeral. But she chose to overcome her handicap. So Jessica found the third alternative. So, next one. This is Mr. Matsushita. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but he's the founder of Panasonic. So what this guy did was obviously develop a global company. So Panasonic is probably one of the most successful electronics corporations the world's seen at the moment. Maybe some others are coming up now, but back when he founded it, it was very impressive. So this guy used the second way. So he thought in the opposite way to create positivity. So a reporter once asked him what made him so successful. He said there were 3 conditions that had made him succeed. One was poverty. Second was weakness. And third was no educational background. Not your usual sort of things that you would expect somebody to actually say, this is what made me successful. Because there's nothing there that people would see as being success orientated. Everything there is a major handicap to most people. But he said that poverty made him humble and desperate to make the best effort, because he'd been at the bottom of the ladder. So when he works his way up, he was working humbly because he knew what it was like being down there, and he didn't want other people to be down there. So he spent his whole life trying to make the best effort and trying to make people around the world more comfortable and happier. Weakness made him enhance his leadership of others, because he was a very weak child and he was very frail, and because of this weakness of his body he wasn't able to do much, so he had to rely on his intellect. And this intellect made him realize that he was weak, he needed other people in order to succeed. So he was able to recognize this need and approach it from a very humble perspective. So he didn't go there saying, hey, you and you and you can help me become successful. He went, you and you and you, would you like to help me become successful, and I can help you become successful. So this is the sort of mentality that he had. And his third one, no educational background, made him humbly continue to study his entire life. So because he grew up in poverty, his parents weren't able to actually send him to college. He dropped out in primary school. He dropped out in primary school, at the end of primary school, because they couldn't send him to high school. So he studied himself, by himself, whenever he could, in order to improve his life. And he spent his entire life studying, because he actually had a fear of ignorance. But this made him study really hard, and it made him realize and appreciate people's efforts that they put in their life. And so instead of feeling inferior, he studied through university level, even though he never went to university, and he achieved such an enormous success. So he turned these weaknesses into strengths. So instead of looking at them saying, well, I grew up in poverty, I'll never get out of poverty, he said, I grew up in poverty, I will use this as a stepping stone, a learning path, if you like. And his continuous study obviously made him sophisticated enough to survive in world market, because Panasonic is a global organization. So this is thinking in the opposite way to create negativity. And these 2 points add up to the concept of revolutionizing your perspective. View life from a different angle, and remember, what you are thinking will manifest in the future, because we are given the same power as God to realize anything in our mind. So if you think you cannot, you will not. If you think you can, our mind will work to realize it. Obviously there are limits. Say, I'm going to dig up Mount Everest and move it to Australia because we want more weather over here. That's not going to happen, because that's not realistic thinking. But if you can think I can succeed in this. I can overcome this problem. I can get past this past failure. Then we will work to realize it. That is what the gift that God has actually given us. The ability to realize anything within reason. So, rebuilding your life means that whatever happened in the past and whatever circumstances we are in now, we can still step forward to attain more happiness and success in life. So, nice and easy summary, yes? But by following the 3 steps, we can overcome grudges and move on in life. So the 3 steps are: identify and be aware of grudges, practice forgiveness, stop blaming others, and revolutionize your perspective. So, nice, easy, simple 3 steps to follow in theory. Very hard in practice, but nice and easy in theory. So, one of the things that Master said in his lecture, which I really actually like a lot, is this quote here. In the universe, there is a firmly established set of values which is like a pillar. Eternal progress and development are promised to those who think and act within this golden pillar, while thoughts and actions outside this golden pillar will never bring about the progress of the soul. This is basically summing up a visual perspective of the middle path. This golden pillar, this light of El Cantare, is the middle path. If we are following this middle path, we progress. If we step off to either side of this pillar, then we're floundering in space without a lifeline. And as long as you're harbouring a grudge, then you are sitting outside this golden pillar looking in, saying, I should be in there, but I can't because this thing's stopping me. So grudges prevent us from achieving entrance into the pillar, into the middle way. So Master Okawa said that eternal progress and development are promised to those who think and act within this golden pillar, while thoughts and actions outside this golden pillar will never bring about the progress of the soul. So as long as we are following the teachings of Buddha, of El Cantare, of God, then we are progressing. As soon as we reach a stumbling block, a problem we can't get past, a grudge, then we're kicked out of that path and we stuck out here hovering, saying, I can't get past this. It's ruined my life. But we can work our way back in. We can fix this problem. So this is the reason why we need to overcome grudges. Because if we can't overcome them, then we can't progress. So, as a closing statement for this information section of today, remember this one. Hatred and grudges are outside time. They always stay in the present. A grudge is not something that you had yesterday. It's here, sitting inside you, and you carry it around with you all the time. So until we can get rid of that, they will always be here, even if it's something that happened 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's still inside us, and we still carry it around, so it is still present. So they are outside of time, and they're also outside of the golden pillar. So this is the end of our information section.